the get of the evening, where we have Codie Clapton and his The Big Hunt with going 5-0. Let's go at the RatCon GT. So this was actually a 120 person event. For anybody that was wondering, because sometimes we hear, well, it was a 10-person event. Well, this one was not. 118 people, excuse me. In Australia, because Australia, RatCon, get it hot. So he didn't end up winning the event. No shame in that. Still got good scores, but did go undefeated here. Totally normal. Some people go, "What? He didn't win." It's okay. That's just how it goes sometimes. But it's still excellent. Great job for going 5-0. And like I said, we actually do have notes from this gets and some questions. I try to get in the head of these gets and talk answer questions that I think you guys would have. So let's get into this list real quick. We have the Hunt, 2 beast bosses. Of course, as you can see, no enhancements on these beast boss. He was pretty tight on points as it is, so he didn't end up wasn't able to pick that, which is interesting because I almost picked this detachment for that enhancement. Sometimes proper killy, right? I'm like, I need that 3 beast boss. Damage, 3 damage, please. So then he goes to a beast boss on Squigosaur with his only enhancement, which was surely as a Squiggle. Now I did ask him, why didn't you have the scouting enhancement so that you can get stuck in faster? That's typically Glory Hog style. People end up bringing that in, but he didn't, because he pretty much came down the points. Again, like we said, if you're playing the Hunt, you already know that detachment's tight on what its points are. You aren't going to really be able to change too much up, and that's what happened with him. Is he had a plan, he had a goal, and he was like, well, I just couldn't. And he even said after it, well, I actually think it's better. And once he actually played through the event with it, he said it was kind of addicting to have the built-in -1 to hit. So I mean -1 to wound, excuse me, what I said, -1 to wound. So he seemed to like it better, even though in the past, historically, I would say that was probably the most common enhancement brought was Glory Hog, and I would say surely as a Squiggle more brought as an afterthought. So with that being said, let's move on. So he also had a Boss Snickrat. Now for the points of Boss Snickrat, he's exceptional where we want him to be, though he does take some patience. Make sure you guys don't end up throwing him away too early, but especially on this very elite kind of style of orc list where you're pretty thick, heavy, everything's trying to get stuck in and fight. Boss Snickrat would feel exceptional here, but you do got to be conservative with him for the most part. Then we have a Mozrog Skragbad. Though he is a shadow of his former self, he still feels pretty good. He has for the most part, I would say he feels better in armies like demons where he doesn't care about their armor saves as much as the marine matchup, but he can still end up getting some good crumps in and interesting fights on death. Now he, of course, both of these mounted characters go along 2 big bricks of Squighog Boyz, 2 10-man units of beast bosses for those 2 10-man units of Beast Snaggle Boys for those beast bosses to ride inside of those kill rigs. Then we have a 10-man boys unit just simply there to sticky objectives, to fight around, maybe even throw a grenade here and there. Love the boys. He said, and I did ask him when he was going out with the boys, he said he would pretty much sticky the home objective and then stick them inside of the Gorkanaut, from what I remember when I was talking. Sorry, we were talking back and forth. I'm making sure I got that, but yeah, that's pretty much what he said with that, which I love. I love that, and that's how it should go, right? Just go in there, boys, jump out. There we go. He said Gork was making sure I read that correctly, but just make sure I'm going too fast. Then we have that's it. No one Gretchen unit. That's also why I say you can be conservative with your boss Snickrat. Some people forget that you can just leave him in your backfield to help screen while everything goes forward, and then you just pick him up, put him somewhere. So it's not even about he cares about the scouting from the Zod. He doesn't have a Zod. He doesn't have a Glory Hog. So it's not like he's really even going for the scouting potential. He's like, whatever. I'll just play for the scouts. I think Snickrat's there exclusively for points, not even for the infiltration type screening stuff. And he didn't give me any indications that he cared about that either. One of the big things he said that was interesting about the Hunt is that people really not understanding what the Hunt does. And since everybody just looked at the snagger list and just assumed it really wasn't that intimidating, they didn't respect it enough, even though he would go over and go over his list and talk it out to the opponent. I think people just understanding that they've been nerfed, they hear all the kind of rumors about how underrated they are. You're playing that off weird niche detachment. You're not Warhorde, you don't have gas. It's like, whatever. Whatever you're playing, dude, I don't care. I'm going to run you over. But he said for the most part, he felt like people people are underrated. Underestimated him, and the list was interestingly a bit more durable than everybody was expected and hitting a bit harder than everybody expected. So let's get into his actual path to victory, where he let us know what was kind of, some things here and there, what was going on with what he did with these wins, and his MVP list of his list and such, and some changes he would have going forward. Of course, he might be in chat. I'm pretty sure he is. So, of course, chat, make sure you guys got some questions. You can let it be known. Let's look at Codie's actual path to victory. The first game he goes into was probably his hardest game, as he goes into Space Wolves Gladius Task Force. One of what people consider one of the more interesting versions of Space Wolves and Space Marines as a whole currently, right? So we have Bjorn the Fell-Handed, of course, giving you the nice CP, himself and Ailey pretty durable as well. Then we have Lieutenant with Combi Weapon for that nice infill scoring potential. Logan Grimnar, this new data sheet, way more killy, way more impactful to the game, making you spend more CP. Typically going to go with the 5-man unit Terminators. That's what's on this list. Then we have a Ragnar Blackmane, definitely very killy. Think of him kind of like your Orc War Boss, but fighting as a character the whole time. And he, I believe he, based off what I understood, he was in one of those Blood Taker units. Then we have a Wolfguard Battle Leader with Honor Vehement. We have a 10-man unit of Blood Claws, a unit of 5 Intercessors, an Impulsor, 1 Jump Pack Intercessor, 2 Gladiator Lancers, 1 Big Brick of Thunderwolf Cavalry, 3 units of Head Takers, 1 big unit, followed by 2 minimum size unit of Head Takers. And he did pay for the Wolves on one of these lists, on one of those units, one of those 3-man units, followed by, like I said, 5-man unit Terminator. So it wasn't really as many units as I would say Space Marines would typically want. Now, what he was thinking immediately, I'll just tell you his thoughts going into it. He said this was round 1. It was Purge the Foe and Crucible of Battle. He said this list because I had 5 characters and the vehicles I had, he had plenty of things to pick up, and seeing this very much as a melee on melee matchup. Lancers aren't necessarily reliable even into a kill rig. In my opinion, you just put 1 shot in the kill. Let's say you put 1 wound through, because that's kind of reliable what's going to happen with them. Unless you're Oath, then you're going to just take some feel no pains. You'll be at half potential and you'll still go disembark your stuff going forward. So he's seen this as a straight up middle kind of fighting. He said, ultimately, turn 1, he prey targeted his enemy's transport, turn 1, that had the most valuable units in it. And so the enemy didn't end up staging it in his proper positioning early. So turn 1, our boy just staged up here with his gits. And then turn 2, he made a big wall, just threw full send everything because it was a melee matchup, and picked up 5 of these Space Wolves units on that go turn. And he pretty much ended the game by turn 3. But I did have to ask him questions because I was like, well, was there any more to that? And he said, well, I said, what happened to Logan Grimnar? He said, well, I crumped the loud Arabiki. Right. So on screen, we have a picture here where he actually ended up getting the Gorkanaut into Logan Grimnar and actually killing him later throughout the game. So he was getting stuck in. Yeah, he sent me this picture. I had to put it in. So it was fun to see because, yeah, for the most part, he was very aggressive with the Gorkanaut every game. He said if it wasn't the kill rig being thrown out first to take up all the damage, then it was the Gorkanaut. If you really think about this early game staging and pressure that you could put on with this army, you go, well, here's double bricks of pigs. Then you also have, which in one's built-in minus on the wound. Then you have 2 kill rigs and you have a Gorkanaut. All of this is coming at you, even if you are a Space Marine with Oath and you're shooting at me with Lancers, whatever. Everything else can stage up on you quite aggressively. If you missile anything into me, then everything can respond because now you're right in front of my face. I might have some interesting heroics. I might have some interesting out of WAAAGH ability to advance and charge because of the hunt itself, having the ability to advance and charge in the strat. So it's like that's a lot of pressure staging up. So if they have no shooting, they can't necessarily disrespect you because you have a little bit from your kill rigs, you have a little bit from your Gorkanaut, and then the bomb squigs themselves. So if the enemy just stands right in front of you, you're like, oh, I'll pick up whatever you put there and damage it. So then as you stage up defensively to try to, you're like, fine, I just put everything in your face to smash into you. And even though this was what would be considered a Space Wolf, we're going to punch you Gladius, respectable list as a whole, it just wasn't able to meet that damage line once he really was able to break their back and make contact with the enemy. So I thought that was pretty awesome because at first I go, man, these lists are just not my style, being so high pre-elite as an orc list. But when you think about how is the enemy going to allocate its damage, and once they get close enough to you, you're just going to smash into them, even with if it's one unit outside of the wall or with the full wall. And then one of these pig units can still fall back and charge and smash into you again because of the hunt stratagems. So I was like, okay, you'll see this pattern as we talk about how he played his list. Is what I noticed is this list was really much I bonk you in the face. I get really just start grumping, but it was calculated with how he assessed his risk. So let's move into his second game. Too much stuff going on, and I get to in chat right here, right? Let's go into his second game. So, first game, so he ends up winning that purge, 168 points there. Like he said, he was really going for just a spine crushing blow more than playing the game of like we'll trade units and points. He's like, I'm just gonna crush him on the wall turn. So game 2, he goes into Space Wolves, Dark Angels, Wrath of the Rock. So we have, I think he's right here. Cody, what's up? Whoa, what's good you get? He said proper fight. So he has Azrael, Chaplain and Terminator armor with Deathwing Assault, Lieutenant with Combi Weapon, Lionel Johnson, and the Tech Marine. We have 2 5-man units of Intercessors, 1 Ballistic Dreadnought, 3 units of Deathwing Knight, a 10-man unit of Stern Guard, and a 5-man unit of Jump Pass. This is very much this is gonna be a big meat on big meat challenge. Wait, that sounds funny. Let's look at what he has to say. I messed that up. So let's look at what he had to say about this matchup and the mission. It was take and hold, search and destroy. Ooh, good old basic. Just get stuck in, right? Nose to nose on this one. He said plenty of characters on this list for him to target. Let's see what you guys are. He said plenty of gets for this guy to target. But he said there's really not much to say here because not enough guns to necessarily have to respect them with what he had. The Stern Guard, it's like, okay, they might be able to do something on that one turn, but from there, it's like he said, he said, I pretty much avoided being charged on the movement phase. The guy misdeployed the Lion, so he was able to charge him and some Deathwing Knights on turn 1 and end up killing the Lion. Then turn 1 to try and kill the Lion, excuse me. It made the Lion focus on killing the Beastboss on Squigosaur unit on his turn, allowing our boy Cody to just stage up and take primary with everything else. And then on the following turn, which was turn 2, he was able to wall and make full contact. So the enemy was so focused on where the enemy he could end up being, and because it was taken hold and search and destroy, the enemy is very linear with his attack pattern as well. If he gives up too much ground, he's not going to be able to stop in a deep strike or any interesting ingresses. So he has to stage up good enough for his slow units to make it to the mid table and kind of start getting stuck into a fight. And ultimately, he was able to make contact. His Beastboss on Squigosaur into the Deathwing Knights and into the Lion. Seemed to be killing one of those Deathwing Knights and causing the Lion to be stuck there. Everybody else was able to move up and stage up and start getting those fights in. And that's what I'm saying is he when he's breaking it down, I'm like, well, how would you even break this down more? He's like, no, that's really just what's happened in some of these games because you can see these people are very elite, these armies that we're going into. So once they commit, that's all they have left. And once the wall turn happens, everybody's getting stuck in. There's nothing else to be said. So just holding down and locking down the line wherever he wanted the engagement to be and just scoring up all the points while they're fighting to the death ended up going his way. Somewhat interestingly enough, right? And you're really happy in this game. I've had it way, in my opinion, right? You don't appreciate the hunt until you're just running into a bunch of 2-up armor saves army and you're like, all right, well, this unit that actually has a character leading it, I can actually get additional AP here. I get to fall back and charge. I get to advance and charge outside of the wall, so I can keep you at risk and keep you at range, but you don't necessarily just get to tumble right into me. So 89-point win there. Great job by that one. Then he goes into his third game, which was a mirror of the Bully Boys. So we have the Bully Boys versus the Hunt. Interestingly enough, I've seen this on the channel. This is the most popular mirror for some reason that I've seen on the channel is the Hunt versus Bully Boys. Like more than Bully Boys versus Warhorde, anything like that. I seem to always catch the Hunt versus Bully Boys. So we have, and he said right here in chat, whoa, another orc player. So great job to this orc player as well for the Bully Boys, showing Greenskin some love. So we have Boston Rock, Gazgul, Thraka, double war bosses, and then double war bosses of Mega Armor, one with the Teleporter. So we have 1 truck, 1 battle wagon, 2 10-man or 11-man units of Gretchen, a commando unit, 1 Mega Knob with twin kill saws. Looks like Gaz's unit because it's 6 of them, maybe. I believe so. And then 2 5-man units of Mega Knobs. Oh no, this is Gaz's unit for sure. No, I guess I'm not sure. I can read the chat. Sorry. So we have one with 5 power claws, and then the other one with 5 twin kill sauce. 2 5-man units of knobs for those war bosses, and then 3 5-man units of Storm Boys. Nice to see. Now, surprisingly enough, as I've seen this in the past, the Mega Knobs do have a good chance in this fight, right? Because the Mega Knobs, if they have their WAAAGH, they have feel no pains. They have good armor saves. They're going to be wounding the Squighog Boyz very reliably. If they don't have their WAAAGH from their 5-up invulns, and they just start taking straight damage straight through. So it's actually a pretty good fight whenever these guys get matched up on each other. Oh, and the gets in chat. What's up, Mark in chat? He said, no, the teleporter had the 6 and Gas was with the 5 claws. Okay, he was with the 5 claws. Yeah, because he can give him +1 to wound. Surprised it wasn't a claw and the power I saw, but that's cool. And then the 6 were actually with the kill saw. Now, as for how this list was described, which was one of the fun ones when we were talking about it, it said round 3, this was tipping point, scorched earth. He said 6 characters, 2 vehicles. He said this was a tricky one. You know, everybody hates the mirror sometimes with orcs. It's because it's almost like 2 glass cannons hitting each other. Once one gets a chunk of flesh out of the other one, and it can go downhill real quick. So very chaotic and fun kind of games. He said he had 2 walls on me, which gave him the ability, you know, a little bit of a hesitation, but ultimately turn 1, he was able to kill the infiltrating commandos off the center objectives, and he ended up putting his kill rig out on the objective. So our Bully Boys player put the commandos out. In response, Codie was able to go out, kill him with commandos with the kill rig, and this acted as bait intentionally. So Codie was like, well, I'm going to put this kill rig out forward to hopefully cause Gas to come into. As we've spoken about before, you know, the thing Bully Boys lacks is that enough significant damage, and it might be that he felt, I just want to take the ground in the middle, try to soak up some of his damage with Gaz's unit, fight back, and then let the rest of my army hit you. Not sure why necessarily he was like, I want to take out the rig with Gaz, but it might be because he's the only unit that can reliably have a chance to do it, right? Once the kill rig's up, sometimes it could just tank a lot of damage. So he ended up taking Gaz, running straight into the kill rig, and in response, Codie was like, cool, both cavalry units came out and the Gorkanaut, cleaning up the Gas units and the Mega Knobs that were around it. The second wall didn't have enough punch behind it once Gas was picked up and the other units that had come out for turn 1 wall. So yeah, so it was actually pretty awesome to see. And he said, just in that case, once he took Gas off the table, there wasn't enough damage left over, right? You have 5-man knobs unit that are trying to punch around and deal with some of the squigs in the end. You still have the Gorkanaut that can soak up a lot of this damage from these units that the knobs have no answer to, and the Mega Knobs don't have enough volume to reliably one punch out. So once he was able to get Gaz to come out and both pig units to respond to help pick him up, pick him as the old hunt target to actually take him to their 4-up saves and push the damage through, that was ended up being worth it. So great job there. Happy to see there was a good game. And then we move on to his next game, which was his game 4. Let me put this up over here, which was the Astra Militarum Mechanized Assault Force. So we have Cadian Command Squad, Gonsko, Lord Solar Leontis, 1 Rogodorn Commander, Sly Marbo, and a Tech Priest Engine Seer. 10-man unit of Cadian Shock, Double Chimera, 1 Kazarkin Squad, triple Okran, 1 as the big 6-man unit with the Ripper Guns. Not a bad unit. The Ripper Guns actually, they're a good multi-phase unit, so they can clean up orcs pretty reliably. Not, I wouldn't say Squighog Boyz, but the rest of the orc units they can do pretty well. And then 2 more minimum size units. Then we have a Rogodorn Commander, a Scout Sentinel, and then a Storm Lance. So you would think, well, that's weird. Remember, he's already, this is round 4. He's already 3-0 at this chance. So this Storm Lance was out here doing work in a real kind of way. So let's look at what he actually has to say about this matchup, because you normally wouldn't think a Storm Lance is too much of a worry if you're an orc player. You're like, not enough activations, whatever. But if you're running a bunch of pigs and big units that are banking on their durability, that might be a concern. On round 4, he has Crucible of Battle, Hidden Supplies. He said, I was pretty nervous for this one because of Stormland, and the terrain had some pretty good firing lanes. He said, I originally decided I was going to saturate everything I could and protect his mounted units, but after the enemy scouted his chimeras up and some sentinels, he said he was able to disembark with a unit of snaggers from the kill rig on the line and prey charge the Chimera, killing it and consolidating into the Sentinel, the Stormlance, and the Sentinel, excuse me, and then holding them in position for 2 turns. He was free to wah on turn 2 and then pin them on their deployment zone. So that ended up going his way again. Like I said, something that nobody is actually expecting from orcs is I can advance and charge outside of the wall. Now they expect it from kill rigs, which are like, I don't care if your buggy advances and charges on me, dude. That thing sucks. But in the hunt, you actually can, and because of when the stratagem is being used, you don't have to wait. Have a unit disembarked. For example, like if you want to use Ear We Go on a unit in orcs, right? And your Warhorde detachment. Well, that unit has to be on the table, can't be within a transport, but that one's even bigger, which is the stratagem that is used in the charge phase for the hunt, allows you to actually declare an advance in charge or a fallback in charge. So that's fantastic, and it's declared in the charge phase. So unit gets out of transports, boom, advancing and charging. Absolutely love that. It's used in the charge phase instead, and just catching everybody else off charge. So jailed that git, which we love to see when people can jail that git and start touching stuff, right? Taking advantage of the consolidation, the pylons. That's exactly how you do it. That's a big deal with this detachment, especially when you go, well, I can fall back and still hit you after I bad touch you, especially if I can get multiple units to touch you as one, which is why there's this thickness redundancy, because it's like, are you gonna call this stuff? Because one of these things is gonna fall back and keep hitting you at least. So great job there. And then we go into and he ended up getting a 93-point win there. And then we go into his final game. What do you guys think the final game is going to be? Unironically enough, surprise, happy for this orchid. It's the biggest and the best of Dobikis. We got the Imperial Knights. So who doesn't like to see some of these big mech boys on the other side of the field when you have your hunt list out? So he said, I was pretty excited for this one. He said, I was excited. He said, I was really happy. He added that really in there. Really happy about getting Knights that last round because my army's a killing machine, army. He's a little nervous about those 3 damage auto cannon, right? So Knights did get a little bit of that glow up on that. So we have a Knight Defender for 435. We have a Knight Warden and then a Ministorm Priest. We have 4 Arbinger Helvrans, followed by 4 Warglaive. So this is a bit more, I'd say this is a pretty standard Imperial Knight list where it's at 2 bigs and then a lot of littles. Quite efficient where they're going now with their books. So I'm pretty excited about that. To see that they're like at least in a balance spot. But our gate was worried about their 3 damage profile auto cannons, which is true. We will get saves to them, but dang, they are quite voluminous. So it's tipping point and lich pin. He said it was a spearhead arms, by the way. He said he had prayed that the big knight the turn 1, so the enemy would hold it back and threat saturated the board. Both his both his kill rigs and his riders stuck them on the line, and when the enemy shot at them, both lived of those actual rider units. But the Beastboss and Squigosaur unit ended up getting harder than Maz did. So from there, he just wad right into the front line, picked up 2 big knights and about 3 or 4 of the small ones. By the end of round 3, he had pretty much won the game at that point. So it's one of those things, guys, where sometimes people overcomplicate like what strategy am I going to take knowing my enemy can impose their will on me with these big knights? Well, it might be you understanding the timing of when you impose your will, having enough understanding of the enemy, the situation you're in, and your own army's durability, you lead into. Though it is off meta, understanding that most people aren't bringing the weird profiles to deal with all of these toughnesses where anything they bring is taking great saves, feel no pains, and even if you half damage the unit to its half potential, it's still going to crump you and follow down on the field. So it's just a saturation thing going on here. Weird niche, weird list. He ended up pulling a 90, I think it was a 97-point win there on that one. 97-point win on that one for the final round to end it at 5-0 with that get. So I do actually have follow-up questions that I had asked him about things overall. He said everyone had kind of compared them to wraiths a little bit for the most part. They're not as durable in the same sense that they regen, but how much attention they take made them feel as durable. But they definitely hit harder than the wraiths in that sense. Like we said, the fact that they can actually fall back in charge, in my opinion, what makes them so appealing, and the additional IP appealing in this detachment. Otherwise, they fall kind of flat currently, even in Warhorde. And remember, they still have like pseudo Warhorde access on their prey target. He says, I guess He said the list being reasonably self-sufficient. All the units can kind of work on their own. No one necessarily is rewiring CP, or he has enough redundancy in the units that he cares about to where if one gets crippled, he can continue the game plan with another. He liked to stage and kind of rage bait the enemy with kill rigs. If he had to, he can use the the Gorkanaut for it. Ultimately, whatever bait he puts out there is what helps bring himself into the enemy's deployment zone or closer to it. And he said, really, the Gorkanaut was a lot of distraction sponges for the most part. Always sticking his home objective with the boys on the Gorks, having the rigs mounted, all the characters, Grots to hold the objectives, and Snickrot for screening and secondaries. His MVP were the Squig Rider units. Hard to say which was better, whether it was the Beastboss and Squigosaur or Moz, but he said the Beastboss felt better into shooting matchups, and Moz was probably better for the fighting matchup because fight on death. He said ultimately he thinks that he could take out the Gork and Boys for another kill rig and Beastboss combo and Beast Snaggle Boy combo. Ultimately, he's going to another event and he'll be tinkering with this list. So, whoa, let's go. You get people always hating and saying that I'm talking out of my arse. Sorry, this is Australia. Arse. No, I'm just kidding. But I'm in it for the fun, right? For the most part. There, of course, we want results like Codie did. But if you play your list enough and you really build into that niche and that list that you want to play and you understand the matchups, a lot of this does take understanding of your opponent's army. Mind you, when he went into these game plans, because he understood the enemy's abilities, capabilities, how that the army wants to play at the tempo of the game, the interesting units to go after, how much the enemy could actually withstand, he was able to make the right calls early in the game. So it's not even just about, oh, well, his potential was he was probably an excellent player, burning down the enemy for 4 turns, outmaneuvering them. Or he was just some crazy git that lined up on the line, understood how much damage the enemy could actually dish out at threat range, and just said, it's not enough, and then got stuck in. And I think that's something that people constantly overlook when they're thinking, well, I want to play my flavor list, but I just get killed. You might be underestimating your own flavor list. You might be hiding all of your own army behind the terrain in positions that they can never actually threat saturate the opponent. You leave one pig unit, Glory Hog, to go up the field. It gets annihilated before anything else can stage up and support it. And then you wonder why your weird to hunt list didn't work. Well, in this case, actually was less cunning than you thought in the way that he just put it on the line and said, come get it. Come throw hands. Give him off my teeth out. And it ended up working for him. So even though it was actually a lot of 4-game knowledge, it was a lot of understanding of the right time to make the call, it was all about whoa for Codie. And this list actually got me quite excited because he kind of disproved even this late into the edition, this late into meta, that you can play with all of these tools and these gets and these bits and really just sit back and say, hey, I understand that I'm going to have some hard matchups. I might have some games where I just have to throw it on the line and let the dice roll out. But ultimately, I can get results with what I feel like playing. And our flexibility and diversity and detachment is really what makes orcs fun right now. So shout out to Codie and thank you for reaching out to me and so that we can get the notes. So of course, if you're a git that gets stuck in and you want to reach out to me and let us all know how you did or how some of the notes to path to victory, it'll be great. And Codie said pigs are most important, need to keep them alive. We don't need the movement, in my opinion. Bait with the rigs, bounce what they use to kill the rigs. That's practically the scout. So he's saying he doesn't need the glory hog, right? He said he just feels like he's already in position. Mind you, this git is someone who also said he stays right up on the line. So when he's saying he doesn't need the movement, it's because some matchups he's already right there in your face saying, well, I'm just gonna move 12 anyways and charge you. So what's up? So I love that. And I think people should just be encouraged to just be diverse because even if you don't go 5-0 at an event, you can still have great fun games. Another thing to check out is our sponsor, the Baron of Dice. They make high quality custom dice. If you enjoy our content and want to show some love, check out the Baron of Dice custom dice, including Wall Tactics official dice. To support us, use our discount code in the description for 5% off because nobody likes taxes. If you enjoyed the clip, check out the full video here. If you'd like to see more tactics, click here.
Let's get stuck in, lads!